Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to round 17 of the Knuckle Sammich podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Happy Wednesday is true indeed. Yeah. Wait. Yeah, it is Wednesday. Okay. Now that we got that clarified, Dippers, we had an excellent month, actually. This is the first podcast that we've actually recorded since, July wrapped up. And just breaking some news to you, we eclipsed 11,000 views for the month of July. I asked Brandon prior to last Monday's show what he would do if we eclipsed 1,000 for the show. And he said he'd shit himself, so we'll see what happens from here. So, guys, we're going to get to some good picks here. Shackelford's on fire. 9 of his last fights, he's been 8-1. So he's been absolutely on fire. 8-1, picked 3 dog winners. 3 dog winners, that pays out. This week, we're going to go ahead and break down and talk about the fights that we saw last week, which was the UFC on Fox 30, which was headlined by Poirier and Alvarez. And also, we have one of the biggest fight cards of the year, UFC 227, coming to LA, the biggest thing that has came to LA this summer. That's right, LeBron. I'm talking to you. Latency, drop the noise.
Welcome to the Knuckle Sammich podcast with Thomas R. Shackelford. A sauce on the side production.
All right, Mr. Shackelford. So first things first, we got to talk about a little bit of upsetting news. Our interview from a month ago, Garrett Gross, fought last night on the Contender Series. Unfortunately, did not pick up the win. Guy that he fought, absolutely monster.
Yeah, that dude was a lot better than what I suspected. I know that sounds like a dickhead thing to say, but it was hard to find fight video on him. And I mean, obviously, I watch a ton of fight videos, and sometimes it can be hard to find on folks. I think he'd only had 4 or maybe 6 professional fights. And actually, the only video I could find on was amateur. But him and Garrett looked to have the same style. Like, they both just kind of moved straight forward, throwing haymakers, kind of wherever the fight went, they went. Not either guy had a specific, I know if I can win here or there. Both just like to stand up, knock the other dudes down. But that Roosevelt Roberts, he looked really, really good. He took Garrett down in the first round. Got off some good ground and pound. He had the guy was 6'1", I think, which for 55 is pretty tall.
Oh, that's extremely tall.
And he was a really lanky tall, like he wasn't thick. He kept threatening guillotines type chokes. So really, Garrett was playing defense on bottom that whole first round. Came out in the second. He had a kind of flurry, got a lot of good shots off on Roosevelt, but Roosevelt ended up tying up again, took him down with a little knee tap. Just more ground and pound until he got his back and rear naked choke. So kudos to the Roberts dude. I was really pulling for Garrett. Like I said, I've seen the dude in the gym train, and in fighting or any sports, he did the work. The work was there. He deserved to win, but sometimes you don't get to win. And I mean, right. That's just part of the sports. That's just part of being an athlete. So I seen he put on his social media, he broke his jaw in the first round, so that could have been, Roosevelt did hit him with a pretty good punch. Would have liked to maybe seen Garrett if he made it out without that broken jaw in the first. Maybe he could have changed the game plan up a little bit in the second.
A broken jaw does not make it easier to fight.
Hell no. I can't imagine. I broke my hand once and was ready to just have him dig a hole and throw me in it. So I can't imagine a jaw. So.
Lay me down to rest, boys. I'm done.
Still love the dude. Still, happy that I got to watch him train and got on the show. Hopefully, it's not. He lost pretty handily, but a lot of those dudes on the Contender Series, even when they don't win or if they don't get the contract, they've been sneaking their way into those cards, because they have so many cards. So there's still options there when he's healthy, if he's still continuing to fight. So we wish him the best of luck in the future.
Right. So we'll go ahead and transition now to the UFC on Fox. And actually, pretty good night of fights. You actually picked really well. Went 3-1. Only loss coming to a decision. This was Dustin Poirier beat Eddie Alvarez by a TKO. Jose Aldo beat Jeremy Stevens by knockout. Joanna Jacek beat Tisha Torres by actually a pretty close decision, closer than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And the only loss of the night, Alexander Hernandez defeated our man, Olivier Aubin Mercier. Which of the fights was your favorite fight of the night?
It had to be, for me, it had to be Aldo Stevens. It was so... And even after Aldo won, he was crying. He legitimately was crying afterwards. And, after... People forget, before Conor, I don't think he had lost in 10 years. He was the only featherweight champion in the UFC.
Oh, he was dominant.
And he dominated WEC. The dude came from homeless. If you know anything about Brazil, you know how in shambles it is. He grew up the poorest of the poor. And so for a guy to come up that high and the way he lost to Conor, I think it really, in a lot of people's minds, just thought he was over the hill. Well, when we were talking about the picks last week, it was a pretty close pick between Aldo and Stevens. And what made me pick Aldo was, me and you were talking back and forth, and you said, well, Max, knocked him out, Conor knocked him out, and I kind of was like, hey, now, the Conor situation, you got a dude calling you a pussy for 2 years, 2 solid years, you're obviously going to try and murder him. Well, he went out, tried to murder him, got the touch of death, went down, just bad game plan. If they fought 10 times, it'd probably be 5-5, but that ain't how it works. And Max really overwhelmed him with punches while not getting hit with punches in the early rounds, and then really turned it into a slugfest late when Aldo didn't have much left. So it was nice to see Aldo come out, look like the Aldo we remembered. He did
vintage.
Really. He looked like classic Aldo. The only thing I noticed, which wasn't in his arsenal, which we haven't seen in any of his last fights, those leg kicks. I don't remember the last fight that he really used those brutal leg kicks a lot. He's really turned into more of just a boxer, which almost got him in a little trouble with Stevens early. Stevens did tag him and kind of was walking him down, but then Aldo, it didn't hurt him that bad, and he stormed right back, ended it with a body shot, and man, it was brutal. It was nice to see him get a win, heartbreaking to see Stevens lose like that because he's been around so long and in the division. He was really on an upkick in the division, so really good fight, though. Really love to see that.
Oh, yeah, excellent fight. Joanna versus Tisha Torres. Like I said, it was a lot closer.
Hold on. I think Leighton wants to... it's time for Leighton's segment.
So wait a second. Was that the fight that you reviewed?
That was the fight, yes.
That was Leighton's fight.
That was the fight.
We're doing it a bit backwards.
We might have told Drake before the podcast told that was the fight I talked about. But
yeah, no, okay. So,
now we're here.
Guys, in case you guys didn't listen last week, we started a new segment. Leighton picks fighters like he picks, cocks at a cockfight. He walks up, doesn't know anything about him, looks at him, decides who he thinks is going to win just right off the bat. Judges the book by its cover. And then Leighton basically takes you through. He takes notes during the fight, which is, an all-time pro move. And it's probably the only fight that he actually watched on the card. So, Leighton C., take it away.
Well, yes, Drake, it was the only fight I watched on the card. And after the fight, it was Aldo with Stevens. I know Aldo fought Conor once. I have seen him fight, so he must be the bigger name. So by default, I picked him to win the fight.
Just by the name.
I also thought Stevens' haircut kind of sucked. He has kind of a Van Chad looking haircut with a beard. Don't really know the game plan there for him. The first few minutes, the fight was really slow. I thought Aldo looked kind of scared because any fight that actually happened was Stevens putting at it. Then I just wrote yawn because it was boring as shit.
Boring. It was like a 2-minute
I
fight.
was gonna say, what are we
It was like-
it on?
Leighton wants a one-punch knockout.
I don't want to get that
Leighton's favorite fight in UFC history. It was Conor versus Aldo, and then who's the guy from Marion with the one punch, the heavyweight?
Oh, Todd Duffy.
Todd Duffy when he
Yeah.
knocked the dude out in like 16 seconds. Leighton, continue.
Tim Hague.
But then
Tim Hague.
so I thought Aldo was gonna win, and he looked scared for a while. Then Stevens caught Aldo, and then he went for a spinning back fist, which brought me back to my days of UFC 2009, where the finishing move was a spinning back fist Superman punch, automatic KO. And then Aldo hit Stevens in the body. The way it looked was Aldo broke his ribs because Stevens just kind of collapsed like a little bitch. And then Aldo was just in his ass on the ground, and they managed to pull off the win. But overall, I was unimpressed, and I don't think Aldo will be champ ever again. Sean just said, hey, not over the hill. No, Aldo's definitely over the hill. Just get him off the main event fights. I don't even want to see. I don't even want to see McGregor versus Aldo 2 now. Fuck that.
You guys heard it here.
You heard it here first. Leighton C
done.
was unimpressed with Aldo as the dog picking up the first round knockout. I love your fight breakdowns. The fight breakdowns are the best.
Favorite part of the week.
Favorite part of the week. No, they're good fight breakdowns. I love that you take notes. Like I was about to say with Joanna, Tisha Torres, the decision was a lot closer than what I thought it was going to be. I kind of expected, just old school Joanna just basically murdering people. Do you think that the competition... So, the way that the UFC has typically worked in, as far as like... Since they introduced the female divisions, it's basically been like a killer at the very top of the division. If you look back, like Ronda Rousey was that killer. Now it's like Amanda Nunes, and it's, Joanna and Cyborg. Like, they always have somebody who's just heads and shoulders above everybody else. Do you think that we're starting to see the I cut it slack because it kind of is a new sport, it is a new thing. Do you think that the competition gap is starting to narrow, or do you think that Joanna is just not as good as what she was?
It's probably a mix of both. I mean, the competition, when she won the title, she destroyed Carla Esparza. I mean, it looked like Carla Esparza wasn't even the same organization as Johanna. And then Johanna beat, I think, 4 straight girls and pretty much beat them all the same way. So, and actually her title fight before Rose was against Claudia Gadelha, and she really put a beating on her. Well, Gadelha just fought Tisha Torres and kind of put a beating on Tisha. So Tisha had a good game plan. She wanted to smother her, keep her up against the fence, and it worked in the second round. She did. I think she probably won the second round, and then Joanna won 1 and 3. It worked to an extent. Johanna still looked good. She was able to get those shots off. To me, she doesn't look like she has the power she used to have.
Yeah.
Because, like, when
it's
I'm
like
saying
lost in
Gadelha,
power, lost her mojo.
Yeah, I wonder if it's not the weight still. This time she looked like she made weight really easy. She looked good getting on the scales and everything. But just over time, I mean, how long has she been in the UFC? Like 3 years, 4 years? You gain weight naturally as you grow older. I wonder if maybe if she wasn't at the 25-pound weight class, she wouldn't have some of that power back.
Right.
Because, I mean, she hit Tisha with a bunch of punches, but it didn't really stop her. Like,
right.
She kept coming forward, So, actually, Tisha looked like the stronger puncher. She stung Joanna in round 2. So.
Yeah, which was the same thing whenever she fought Rose. So, it could possibly be the way. And if it is, hopefully the camp notices and adjusts accordingly.
I mean, she's trained at American Top Team. Mike Brown's the head coach down there. He's dealt with that. I mean, he fought at 55 for a while. He won his WEC title at 45, but like he's been one of those guys that's been in between weight classes, and hopefully they're smart enough to recognize, because I mean this is our third fight in a row where she hasn't looked like herself. It's got to be something. It's got to be something.
Yeah. So Dustin Poirier, he's been an absolute monster. Riding a big win streak. Only lost one fight since he lost to Conor, which seems like, decades ago.
Has he lost the fight?
Yes. I think it was just the one.
He had the no contest against Alvarez.
I thought that he had only lost one fight. Either way,
yeah.
He's been on a huge streak. I'm gonna pull that up to double check. But impressive finish over Eddie Alvarez. Picks up the TKO in the second round. What did you see from Poirier this night, and what exactly do you think of him? What is his future, and what is Eddie Alvarez's future at this point?
The fight went how I thought it was going to. From distance, Eddie has not looked good from distance.
Lost that fight to Michael Johnson.
Oh, that's right. Johnson actually KO'd him, I believe,
first round.
too. But Eddie just, since he's gotten in the UFC, he has struggled at distance, which he trained under Henry Hooft for a long time down at the Black Zillions and even before he was there. But he's just not a very good distance striker. I mean, he's a brawler. If you get inside with him and he can hit those hooks, you might be in trouble. And his wrestling is, we'll say, B+. So his game plan is really put him against the cage, hit with hooks, maybe drag him to the mat. And since he's been in the UFC, Cerrone really pieced him up. Poirier's pieced him up twice now. Conor really exposed it and really made him look bad. I don't know what's next for Eddie, because he actually was betting on himself. I respect him a ton for this. He was betting on himself. He fought out his contract. So I don't know what they'll do with him now. So
right.
He basically, it's just like in football. If you try and play out your contract, he's basically got no contract now. So now they're going to, had he went ahead and signed before, he might have been able to get a higher number. Whereas now they're like, hey, you kind of got your ass kicked 3 fights in a row now. Like, what's your worth now?
Right.
So I'm not sure what's in store for Eddie. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to Bellator, maybe ONE FC.
I feel like his...
Well, I won't say Bellator because
he
he had a long legal battle, like a 2-year legal battle with them before. So I don't know that he'll jump back in those waters. But there's a ton of Asian promotions that would love to have him. And Ben Askren and those guys, like, they pay a ton of money over there. Now, we don't really see those fights very often. It's not like UFC where we know when they are.
Or like Pride back in the day, or
yeah, I mean,
like
you can
that.
fight maybe a little less competition at the same money or more money. Why the hell not?
No, I definitely agree with you, and it seems like his track record is trending in that direction.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I would not be surprised if that was Eddie Alvarez's last fight with the UFC. So the only fight of the night that we lost.
We didn't talk about Poirier.
Oh, okay, yeah, Poirier.
The winner.
Yeah, well, you touched on him, how you thought that he only lost one fight. But.
So Poirier looked good. I mean, it looked like it just started fresh from the last one. From outside, Ed Alvarez couldn't stop him. There was that weird thing in the second round where he got in a weird scramble and got taken down, and Alvarez was actually mounted on him against the cage, and you heard Alvarez's corner yell, throw elbows, and Alvarez threw a blatantly illegal 12-6 elbow. Just a downward elbow, straight hit out.
John Jones style.
Yeah, John Jones style, hit Poirier on the trap, and they stood him up. They said, hey, that's an illegal elbow, start back up, and then Poirier smashed him after that. Now, Poirier said right after the fight, Alvarez said, well, you wouldn't have won if they didn't stand us up. And in my head, I thought, well, that's not a big deal. Like, it was almost like Eddie was trying to get another weird way out. Like, that's another...
It's exactly how the last fight
You can't have
happened.
30 fights and not know you can't throw a 12-6 elbow right next to a dude's head. And the only reason it missed is because he moved his head, So...
Right.
I don't know. There are a couple other podcasts I listen to and write-ups, they brought it up. Like, they're kind of making it a big deal. Like, oh, it's the ref's fault that they did that. You know, that fight could have been so much different because Alvarez was on top. In my eyes, it was an illegal blow.
I agree.
And one of the best dudes in the game did it, who's been around forever. It's illegal.
Yes.
End of story.
Yeah, it's like when Ndamukong Suh kicked Matt Schwab in the nuts. It's like,
yeah, what are you going to do? Be like, oh, here's a warning.
Yeah.
No, you stop it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And the craziest part of it all is that last week you actually called it. You were like, hey, let's not forget, whenever this last fight happened, how did it end? Eddie Alvarez was looking for a way out. And then, fast forward to this week, you're watching the fight, and that's exactly what it looks like. And, the fact that you pointed that out, that the knees from the last fight were so obviously illegal, like he had to have been looking for a way out, it kind of makes you wonder.
It almost happened again.
Yeah, I think he did it again. I think he was trying to get a way out. Fortunately, though, for Poirier, that it did not end that way because, the better man won the fight.
Yeah, it sets him up. What I think it sets him up for is a fight with a number one contender fight with Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
So
we'll actually get to that here in a little bit. But I agree with you. I think that'll set up a very, very fun fight that night. So Alexander Hernandez ended up defeating the only guy that lost that night as far as our picks go. He beat Olivier Aubin Mercier. And I love saying that name because I feel like I can actually speak French correctly somewhat there. So ended up being a 3-round decision. What went wrong for Mercier?
I think he came out too slow. I think his game plan was to, kind of weather the early storm and then hope Hernandez faded late. And I think he gave the first round up to Hernandez. But the Hernandez kid can wrestle a lot more. He was actually right on par with OAM in the wrestling and grappling department, which I did not expect. I knew he was going to have a power and striking advantage, but I really thought OAM would be head and shoulders above him. Really, in the second round, OAM probably took him down, controlled him most of the round. At the very end, with maybe 40 seconds left, he did give up his back. And then in the third, it was kind of more the same, pretty even fight. It was a unanimous decision. I think only one judge scored a 30-27, so the other two had at least one round going to OAM. Close fight. What I take away from it is Hernandez is a lot better than I expected. But again, when you're betting these fights, you look at a guy who's 9-1 or 8-1 in the UFC, fighting stiff competition against a guy who's only been in there for 30 seconds against, a tough fighter, but not necessarily a striker. It was a safe picking OAM, and we just didn't know how good Hernandez was. Right.
And that's definitely a bummer. Cuts into the pocketbook, but 3-1 and you get a dog winner. That'll pay off every day of the week. So we'll go ahead and fast forward to the UFC 227. It's a fight card I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Basically since, Garbrandt knocked Dillashaw out in their last fight. It's in LA this week. Ton of names, loaded down. They have 2 belts on the line this weekend. And we actually have a friend of the Sauce on the Side podcast. Shorty Torres gets his second UFC fight this weekend, and we're looking forward to that big time, actually. So we'll go ahead and start it off with Shorty. Jose Shorty Torres opens as a plus 120 dog to Alex Perez, who is the minus 140 favorite. Shackelford, you know the rule of the Saucy Pod. Since we've had him on 3 times, we cannot bet against Shorty. Where are you putting your money?
Well, of course, Shorty. Well, I'll take Shorty by decision. I watched what I could of this Perez. He came in off the Contender Series. He's a good fighter. His stand-up's solid. He's long. I think he'll be longer than Shorty. Where he really makes his money at is kind of in the scrambles when he's like in a front headlock position. I think he's had 3 wins by an anaconda choke / Darce type choke, which is like a head and arm choke because of those longer arms. So I think as long as Shorey can keep it standing and really use, because he's, a little bit shorter of a guy, a little bit shorter arms, if he can keep those strikes nice and crisp down the middle, he can really walk this dude down. I don't know if this guy's got wrestling to really take Shorty down a ton. So I'm comfortable with the Shorty by decision.
Yeah, I definitely like that pick too. Can never bet against the boy. When you get him at a premium, being a dog, you got to hammer it. So we have a women's strawweight fight. Pretty interesting fight. We have J.J. Aldrich opens as a plus 205 dog against Pollyanna Viana, who is the minus 240 favorite. Where should we go with this fight?
Definitely do Viana. She's going to be an up and comer in the division. She'll be a big name within the year. I think she's 10-1. I think she was a 2017 IBJJF black belt women's world champ, which is top of the line. So she's currently a top of the line BJJ champion.
Did she beat all the white belts though?
No, they go against black belts.
Well, she didn't beat all the white belts, so how do you know she's the best in the world?
You just know.
It's just understood.
You just know. Yeah, she's the J.J. Aldrich. She's had a few UFC fights. Seems to be more of a stand-up fighter. But the thing about Pollyanna too, not only is her ground game really good, but she can, because it's so good, she can throw her hands with reckless abandon. And she's a pretty strong puncher. So I see her coming out there winging some haymakers. If she doesn't tag the chick, she'll just drag her to the mat and strangle her. So sub pretty early, maybe mid round 2.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet there. So Pollyanna by strangulation is what it sounds like. So middleweight fight, guy I really like to watch fight, Thiago Santos. He's actually fighting a guy who is not my relative, Kevin Holland. Santos opens as the minus 375 favorite. Holland a plus 310 dog. That's how you know that this guy's not a relative of mine. Otherwise, he would be the favorite. So where are you going with this fight?
We'll go Santos. Woolard was on, I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Woolard. Holland was on the Contender Series. He's pretty tall. I want to say he's like 6'2", 6'3". They had high hopes for him, but he fought a dude that was like 5'6" on the Contender Series, and that dude hit him a few times. Like, this was one of those weird fights where Holland was like trying to show off during the fight. Like, he was fighting and he was kind of stinging the guy, and he was like trying to show off like, I'm so much better than this guy. But then that little stumpy dude clocked him. And then you'd be like, well, you're not winning the fight all that handily, and you look goofy because you're trying to like taunt the guy who's actually probably closer to knocking you out than you have been you the whole time. So
I love those guys.
He's a real young guy. I want to say he's like 21, 22, so hopefully he learns from that. But Santos, man, he's a battle-hardened dude. He's the Thor's hammer guy. He's got the Thor's hammer on his chest, the giant tat. So look for Thor hammer to go Hulk smash on Holland and do it pretty quick.
Yeah. I think Santos will end up, dropping
big
the
time
hammer.
striker. Watch. I can't come back for that.
So this is where we get to the biggest names, and a lot of big names here. And one of my favorite guys to watch, even though his tattoos are subpar, and that's Cub Swanson. Got a featherweight fight. He is plus 330 against Renato Moicano, who is a minus 400 favorite. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I don't know if there's another featherweight in the world that, if they fought Cub Swanson, that Cub would be a plus 330 dog.
That's really big, isn't
That's
it?
a huge underdog.
That really surprised me, because I thought this would be our dog pick of the night. Moicano, I want to say he's like 12-1. His only loss was to Brian Ortega, and they had a really good fight, but he was probably going to win a decision. And midway through the third, he went for a takedown, and Ortega put that death squeeze on him and choked him, put him out, tapped him out with a guillotine. Moicano can do it all. He can wrestle. He's a black belt on the ground, but his striking is really, really good. And I actually had to look him up. So before Aldo beat Stevens this past weekend, he was the last guy to beat Stevens. He's got a really, really mean leg kick, and his hands are so crisp. So I didn't expect him to be that much of a favorite, though. Like I said,
especially with the name that Cub Swanson carries.
Because Cub was fighting really well. I mean, he lost his last two to Frankie and Ortega, but those are the top two dudes in the game right now outside of Max Holloway. So, I'll give you this. I'm picking Moicano to win by decision. But if you're looking to make a little money, that Cub pick's not a bad pick. Now, Moicano hasn't showed any propensity to be knocked out. Like, he's been stung maybe a couple times. But we know Cub hits hard. So if Cub really comes out blazing and he was the Cub of what we remember Cub, that could be your, if you're one of those dudes that's into parlays and stuff, that could be a pretty good money swing. But just for the basic, I'm going to pick Moicano by decision.
Was Cub's last fight Artem Lobov?
No, it was, wasn't it Frankie?
I thought that there was another one
picked him against Frankie, and I think he fought Artem before Frankie.
I think he did. I couldn't remember. But just for, shits and giggles, I don't think Cub Swanson's ever been that big of a dog. Whenever he fought Max Holloway, I guess it was 2 years ago, he was a plus 160 dog. So half of what he is now.
That blows me away because Moicano's tough, but I'm surprised a lot of people even know his name.
Yeah, no, well, here's what I think is going to happen. The odds were set, and Moicano, right now, Vegas knows that he's probably going to win. They're set now. I'll be texting you Sunday saying that the odds have swung. I expect Cub to get bet all the way down to like minus 200, which is a huge swing. Yeah. But I think they're going to do it. Or not minus 200, plus 200. I think it's going to be a huge swing. I think people are going to be hot on him. They're going to see the name, and they're going to bet it. And I'm usually pretty good at predicting those. So if you're sitting there right now and you're wanting to take Moicano, wait it out, take it right as they're walking out. That's when you're going to get the best value. People are going to see, Cub, anytime Cubs fight, doesn't matter who it is, plus 200, I'm going to take him.
Yeah, they snuck him on this card, too. I had no idea he was even fighting until I still really started digging in. I was like, damn, Cub's like 3 fights down on this.
Yeah. See, the reason why I asked about Artem was that the last fight that they had put on there was Artem. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've seen him fight since Artem, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So, actually, another fight with huge odds. Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo, round 2, flyweight championship fight. Demetrius Johnson basically been a buzzsaw since he's been in the UFC. He opens as a minus 480 favorite to Henry Cejudo, who's the plus 380 dog. Where do you see this fight going?
I love Cejudo. He's looked really good his last few fights. He did drop that really close decision to Joey B, which has been about a year and a half at this point. But his last couple fights, he really put it on Sergio Pettis. He put it on Wilson Reyes. But, Mighty Mouse beat him so easy last time.
Absolutely kicked his ass.
I want to say, I don't know if I was writing articles for the show at that point, but just me and you talking, I think I'd pick Cejudo. I thought Cejudo would dominate in the clinch and wrestling portion, and I thought that's where the fight would go. But when they got in the clinch, Demetrius looked stronger than the gold medalist wrestler, which goes back to Cejudo's a freestyle wrestler. So really, when I think about it, I don't know why I necessarily thought he was going to dominate in the clinch when his expertise in wrestling is really, from the waist down. It's waist down wrestling. He did folk style growing up, which does mix in some upper body stuff, but he weighs 125 pounds as a grown man, so he probably never wrestled above 112, 119 growing up. So he probably has never been big in the clinch game, which it makes me feel stupid that didn't dawn on me before. So I don't know how you could pick against Mighty Mouse. I mean,
you can't.
Mighty Mouse has beaten everybody so easily. This will be his 12th defense. I just don't know how, I just don't know how anybody beats Mighty Mouse at this weight.
I think the only way Mighty Mouse is ever going to lose is going to be one of those ones where it's like a short notice fight. Like some dude backs out, we get some cat we've never heard of, no tape, and the dude just lands like that one clobbering shot that puts him out, and and it's going to be a no name.
I mean, we've seen Tim
Elliott.
Tim Elliott snagged him in a real tough guillotine early in the fight. But Mighty Mouse got out and then put a beating on him. John Dodson in their first fight hit him, put him on Queer Street. He came back, dominated him. And also in rematches, it's not even close. I mean, him and Joey Benavidez had a really tough fight the first time they fought. Rematch came, he KO'd him in the first.
Yeah.
So he in his 3 rematches, he's been even more dominant than the previous one, and I really think that he's training with.
Isn't that crazy that this dude's been dominant that long, that he's had 3 rematch title shot fights?
It is. I mean,
think about that.
I'm not one of those guys that really wants him to jump up a weight class. Like, there's a ton of guys in his weight class
he gets ass
to
whipped at
challenge
35.
him. Well, the only guy he's lost to is Dominic Cruz, and it was a tough. He fought Dominic Cruz for the belt, and he handily beat him, but that 10 pounds really adds. I mean, that's what people are calling for him to go up.
Yeah,
for.
well, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, that's like 8% of his body weight. Yeah, like that's a big amount.
Yes, when you naturally can make 125 pounds, 10 pounds, yes, that's a ton of weight.
And that wouldn't be smart for him to do. He'd go up. I mean, neither one of us are going to pick him against Garbrandt. We're not going to pick him against Dillashaw.
I would probably pick him against Garbrandt, but I would not pick him against DJ.
Yeah, but
I think the overall game of DJ would be more effective against Mighty Mouse.
But as far as bantamweights go, you could probably name 4 or 5 guys that have beat Mighty Mouse.
Yes.
Garbrandt's not, an intelligent fighter by any stretch of the imagination.
I love DJ. I want him to stay at 25 and just
continue to dominate.
I mean, you might as well. I mean, DC, they're talking about the greatest of all time, and you can't really throw John Jones anymore because the steroid accusations. Once that's on your record, him and Anderson automatically go out the window, and that kind of leaves GSP, Mighty Mouse, and DC at this point. I mean, he's a 2-division champ. And he's looked really dominant. And like DC and a lot of those people are saying, like, hey, the reason Demetrius isn't number 1 right off the bat is because the level of competition he's faced. I don't think it's the level of competition he's faced. I think it's how good he is.
Yeah.
I mean, look
at Cejudo. Like, how many Olympic gold medalists are fighting in the UFC?
Just one.
And
I think there's only been one even challenge for a title, and that was Cejudo.
Yeah. So if you think about that alone, you're like, okay, well, these guys have crossed platforms. These guys have been successful in other sports other than just sheerly MMA.
Yeah.
So and you look at what transitions the best to fighters, and it's wrestling. So you really can't go out there and dog him. I mean, look at how successful Yoel Romero is.
Oh yeah,
and was he a silver or bronze medalist?
I mean, he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I think he gold or silvered at every single major international event for like a 15-year span or something. So when it comes to wrestling, Cejudo's probably. Well, I mean, he got that Olympic gold medal, so he's got to be the best wrestler that's ever made it up there. Now. Yeah, there's probably the argument that Yoel's probably had the longer, more illustrious career, but he didn't get that gold medal. So.
No, everybody would trade whatever they had for that gold medal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody that's ever wrestled, I'd trade all 500 of my first-place goofy medals for one state championship medal. Like, there's no comparison.
It's the pinnacle. So, and people want to dog that. It's like, well, DC never did that. and and DJ's just making quick work of these guys. I agree with you. I love Henry Cejudo.
He's one of our favorite. I mean, when me and you both have talked about him a million times, and he's really changed how he's done things since. He's really changed how he's done since that Mighty Mouse fight, but I don't know that it's enough. I don't know that anybody at 125 pounds until DJ retires will beat him.
No, they won't. I mean, it's almost laughable, but it's fun to watch the dominance of this guy. And, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You don't have to get cute. You don't have to go up and get more titles. Just stick with the one that you have and just continue to absolutely dominate, because that's what everybody wants to see. And keep the run going, and I think he's absolutely going to do so this weekend. And I think he'll make Cejudo look like he did last time. So we're going to go ahead and transition here to the headliner. It's actually another rematch. So last time it's a bantamweight title shot. T.J. Dillashaw being the champ, Garbrandt being the number one contender. Dillashaw opens as a minus 115 favorite to Garbrandt's minus 105 dog. Last time Dillashaw actually had to fight back after losing the first round pretty obviously. Fought back, knocked Garbrandt out in the second round. Shackelford, who do you have winning this fight?
This is a tough one, and I remember the exact reason that I picked Garbrandt last time. I picked Garbrandt because in the build-up between him and Dominic Cruz, he actually pissed Cruz off so bad. He seemed like he was like this real crazy dude, like just faux tough guy, and he was pissed off all the time. But then when he fought Cruz, he was so level-headed that it impressed me, that he was level-headed enough to really tool Dominic, like really beat him, which surprised me. So in the build-up to the Garbrandt-TJ fight, they were so at it at each other and just going nuts. And we'd seen TJ lose to Cruz because he was so pissed off at him. He was just trying to kill him, and Cruz just moved around him and ended up winning. So I assumed that would be the TJ that came out against Garbrandt that time. But that's not what happened. TJ really looked like the more composed guy, and came away with the win. Now, as far as arsenals go, TJ has more in the arsenal. He's a better kicker. He's a better grappler, wrestler, I would say. Now, getting Garbrandt down is no easy task, but his punching power seemed to be just as strong as Garbrandt. And that's actually what he knocked Garbrandt out with, was with a punch. Now, he did hit him with a kick a little bit earlier in the round that stung him.
This is a tough fight.
I was thinking of picking TJ, but as I sit here and think about it, I'm gonna pick Garbrandt again. I really think Garbrandt clocked him. His hand speed's way faster than TJ. We do know that, and he does hit KO power. And he really, at the end of the round, he had TJ rocked so bad TJ couldn't walk to the corner.
Dude, no,
you remember that?
I remember that fight because I thought in my head, I said, this fight's over. This fight is absolutely toast. And Garbrandt even pointed at him and he said, you're not making out of this round.
Yeah.
And Dillashaw looked at him with these big loopy googly eyes and he said, you're not making it out of this round, and flipped him off.
When I break it down, it's kind of a dumb pick. You look at TJ, when I look at the categories, who's a better grappler or wrestler? That's TJ. Who has more striking in the arsenal? It's got to be TJ because he has more kicks than Garbrandt. When I look at who has the better coaching staff, I'm going to go TJ again with Dwayne Ludwig, but I'm going to pick Garbrandt. I think Garbrandt's hand speed and that power, and this time he's going to be composed and smarter about it. I think that he's going to win. I think he's going to win and set up a really great trilogy between these guys.
Yes, a fight like this, I look at, I'm a firm believer of a hungry dog is a better fighter. So, but when I'm saying that, last fight, I thought Dillashaw was going to win. And, who held the belt? It was Garbrandt. He held the belt going into that fight. Dillashaw wanted it. So he ended up coming up, taking it. Now, roles reversed. And Garbrandt is actually, the challenger this time. He has the bad taste in his mouth from the last fight. He has so many bad tastes in his mouth with Dillashaw that, he is going to be putting, the extra step. And I know people hate to say, they're professional athletes. Like, they don't need any extra firepower. Like, they're going to do whatever they do. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
This helps.
Yeah.
This helps. And I agree with you 100%. Last time I was all in on Dillashaw. I even thought Dillashaw was going to lose that fight. Seeing how that fight played out, even the entirety of the fight, even the way Dillashaw won, makes me more confident taking Garbrandt this time.
I think we should get Leighton's pick on this one.
I think he got pretty lucky last time.
Who's going to win?
Dillashaw, Garbrandt. He actually got to watch the first one with us.
Who's the guy that I picked against last week? He has shitty tattoos.
Anthony Smith.
Okay, well, Garbrandt has really cool tattoos.
That's
and they're terrifying to his opponent, so I think he's going to take this one. I don't know, maybe first round.
How is a heart with wings on your neck more cool than a tribal tat?
Tribal tat's dead, Sean.
Yeah, tribal tat's dead,
fight
man.
You on this one till the
I'm
end.
not trying to say that
All right.
a tattoo of a heart on your neck is cool as a heart tattoo, even though it
but
kind of
his tattoos are more today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. There you
He's
go.
got millennial tattoos.
He's got the millennial.
He had
tattoo.
a job killer tattoo. Well, Garbrandt's all in care of a fucking neck tat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
The other
true.
guy
Leighton
has-
has a theory about fighting. He thinks that if you have a head tattoo or a neck tattoo, you're going to be the best fighter. You know why? Because if you don't fight, you're not going to get a job anywhere else.
Exactly.
So they have to be all in.
They're all
Exactly.
in, baby.
That's my favorite fighting theory of all time.
That actually is probably an amazing theory.
Yes.
I bet if we looked it up, I bet you the dudes with head tats and neck tats.
Chuck Liddell, Conor McGregor,
Boom.
Cody Garbrandt,
Darren Till.
Darren Till.
Boom.
Yeah, Leighton's
That's
theory
pretty
is
damn
great.
good. That's
Yeah.
pretty damn good.
Because you're going to be more motivated. Because think about it. What are we going to get with a
Oh,
fucking neck
Platinum
tattoo?
Perry,
Platinum Perry.
face tattoo.
Maybe we'll get Post Malone fighting next.
Yeah, nothing
Hey,
says
Wiz.
that you're...
Wiz is giving
Hey,
up.
yeah, Wiz is.
Wiz Khalifa vs. CM Punk 2019.
Oh,
It's going to
man.
happen.
You know what? That we definitely have to go Garbrandt, TKO in the third, just because he's got that career killer on his neck. Leighton says that ensures a victory.
Yeah, I mean, you have to train harder. You know in the back of your mind that, if you get fired, if you do not pull off this win and you have to go out and get another job, chances are you're not going to get one.
You're looking at Hardy's. Carl's Jr.
All right,
Charging us $2 for a spicy chicken that costs $1.
Bullshit.
So just to recap the picks here real quick, Shackelford has 2 dog winners this week, being Garbrandt and Torres. And he has also picked Demetrius Johnson, Mokiano, Santos, and Polyana Viana. I love saying that name. So we usually like to end the show by talking about something, that's just not, something that might be we can look forward to in the future. And October 6th in Las Vegas, Nevada, basically the home of every great fight. Shackelford, what are you hearing about this night?
Rumor is that's going to be Conor versus Khabib. I heard it from multiple of the kind of the top, the upper echelon MMA guru, podcasters, writers.
So wait a second, did you tell yourself this?
Well, I did originally. Like, I knew it originally, but then affirmation I had to get from those guys. They're talking Conor versus Khabib in Vegas in October. Another thing that kind of brought up is people were asking Dana White about it in like a post-fight media scrum that he did, and they said, hey, we're in works. Conor's done now. He's got to take some anger management classes. He's got to do like 5 hours community service. He's done with the legal stuff. So, and he basically said, yeah, they're in talks.
How awesome would that be that you go to like anger management class and Conor McGregor's sitting there right across the...
Hello, I'm Mr. McGregor.
What do you do for a living?
Driving down, whatever highway in New York County or city or whatever, and you look over and it's McGregor with a stick with a nail in it picking up trash on the side of the highway.
or you drive by him on the side and he's driving his Rolls Royce and he's kind of getting pissed off, so he starts singing, "I feel so pretty, oh so pretty."
Yeah, that's what they're shooting for. And they asked him, what are they going to do with Tony Ferguson? And what are they going to do with the winner of Alvarez-Poirier? And someone asked the question, how would they like to see the winner of Alvarez-Poirier versus Tony Ferguson underneath Conor versus Khabib? And Dana was like, I love that. So I really do think, it's coming from him. It's coming from all these other outlets. I think we're looking at Conor versus Khabib. And then on that same card, it's now Poirier versus Tony, as like a number one contender for there. So that'll be a blazing card if so.
Oh yeah, that card would be on fire. And honestly, so I kind of have a theory with why they set up these the title shots this Saturday on the same card. So I think that if Demetrius Johnson wins, he'll go up a weight class, and I think he's going to either fight Dillashaw or Garbrandt.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they set these fights up, right now. And they're going to hope that neither one of these guys get too banged up. I don't know where their timetable would be on a recovery, because like Poirier, they're wanting to get Poirier on that card. So if he can turn around, and be ready for that by then, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Then they could also maybe put the unification of a belt on there with Dillashaw or Garbrandt against Demetrius Johnson. I think this is all going to tie in. I think there's a reason why we see Dillashaw, Garbrandt, and then Demetrius Johnson fighting right before them.
Yeah. They that was kind of what TJ was really trying hard to get, that Mighty Mouse fight before this Garbrandt fight. But I think Mighty Mouse had some shoulder surgery and ended up not wanting to take it. I'm not real sure. The word was the money wasn't right and he needed a little surgery. So if TJ wins and Mighty Mouse wins, they'll set up a Mighty Mouse versus TJ.
Oh, absolutely.
But if Garbrandt wins, they'll have to end that rubber match. They'll have to get a rubber match fight in before Mighty Mouse. But yes, you're right. If Mighty Mouse wins, either TJ or Garbrandt, I think we'll fight him within a year and a half, something like that.
I think that
would work if if TJ wins, nobody really gets hurt. Can you imagine Conor, Khabib, Ferguson, or it'd be Conor, Khabib, and TJ even talked about going down to 25.
Yeah.
So that would be a champ type
crazier
thing. So you have Conor, Khabib, 25-pound champ fighting a 35-pound champ for the 25-pound champ's title, and then Ferguson versus Poirier. That's a nuts card right there.
And that card would be loaded. And I think that would solve all of the UFC's financial issues.
It'd be a big selling one, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Anyone you got Conor on is going to be a big selling.
Yeah, but you throw Khabib, you throw DJ, you throw Dillashaw.
Well, and the champs, the way I understand it, if you're a champ, you get pay-per-view buys. If you're already a champ, you get a portion of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, dude. Demetrius Johnson should be on
everybody's chomping at the bit at getting on a Conor card or a Brock
Demetrius
card.
Johnson would be insane if he didn't want to jump on a Conor McGregor card before he's past his prime, because he needs that. I'm sure he does well. He has Twitch. He has all kinds of different avenues that he's making his money.
He's doing fine.
But he's doing fine. But I mean, it's a good retirement plan.
Yeah.
Headline a card with Conor McGregor.
And I heard, from what I understand, the last pay-per-view did like 300,000 pay-per-view buys, which isn't very good.
Double of the one before.
Yeah. But I think Amanda Nunes holds like the record for like lowest fights. I want to say it was like 85. I don't know. It was pretty bad. It was real bad. So
that's sad. So anything else before we want to wrap this bad boy up?
Nope. Hopefully we go. We're 8-1 right now in the last 2 cards. This one did have a little stiffer competition. I thought the fights were a little more even here and there, but I feel pretty comfortable with what we got.
I think we're gonna roll through. We're gonna get 6 in a row. We're gonna rattle off 6 winners this week. Bet the mortgage on it. Bet the mortgage on it. It's gonna pay off. Dippers. As for Drake and Mr. Shackelford, as always, stay saucy.